Hello, welcome to my home. Today I'm cleaning out my food storage areas and giving food storage tips that I have found through experience and research. And I hope you'll stay tuned till the end, where I'd like to talk to you a little bit about having security that you and your family will be provided for. If you're new here, my name's Karen, and it's my goal to bring real life help to real life moms. I've been really working on having more of a gratefulness mindset as I work throughout my home. And so today, as I clean out my refrigerator and my freezers and my pantry, I'm thinking about all of this provision that's been given to me and my family, and how I can best take care of it so that our food lasts and I waste less. Going through all of my food storage areas really helped me to know what things I had in the house and what things I needed. So it's a great idea before you go shopping, even if it's just to do some organizing and not to even do any cleaning. It's nice to just go through and kind of put your hands on most of what you have so that you remember and can piece together meals from what you have and not be buying quite as much at the store that you might normally if you didn't know. Lately, in order to conserve energy, I've been looking at my refrigerator and just cleaning the areas that need to be cleaned, rather than thinking I need to always be emptying out everything and wiping down everything. I'm kind of going on an as-needed basis. Let's get into refrigeration tips, and I got some great advice from openfit.com. I'm going to have the article linked in my description box below so that you can have it in writing. I learned that I've been making a lot of mistakes in the refrigerator, and so I'm very excited to put these tips into action, because as I was cleaning out, obviously I've got some food I've let spoil, and so here's a great example of why I need these tips. In the bag of house, because it is home. First, store dairy products at the back of the fridge. I find this to be an interesting piece of advice, since usually you have a gallon jug holder on the door of your refrigerator, but it's colder in the back of the fridge, so that helps your dairy products to last longer. Next, store meat on the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. That way, if there is any leaking, then it's not going to leak on your fresh produce. I would insert here that if you can't do that, it might be a good idea to put your raw meats in a container. That way, if there is any leaking, it will leak into the container. I'm planning to buy some containers for myself to do this week. Remember that not everything needs to be put in the refrigerator. Things like avocados, citrus fruits, bananas, nectarines, pears, peaches, onions, tomatoes, and potatoes can all be stored at room temperature. Although I have to say, I put my avocados in the refrigerator when they're starting to get ripe and I want to stop them from ripening. Make sure you keep potatoes and onions in different containers, because they will cause each other to rot faster. There's lots of containers that you can buy nowadays that keep your greens fresh longer. But if you don't have those, wrap your greens up in a paper towel, things like spinach and kale and lettuce, because then it will absorb any extra moisture that will keep your greens from wilting early. Wrapping celery in foil will help it to last longer, and washing your produce right before you're going to prepare them is best as well to help them to last longer. Ever wonder what I'm saying when you can see my mouth moving? Here's an example. Oh, found the hummus. Found the hummus. Found the hummus. Sorry, Fran.
Somebody?
I said so many smells. I'm sure somebody
I'm like,
smells.
I'm the only one around here. Are you turning me?
Saying I smell? Well, I never said if it was a good smell or a bad smell.
It's usually a bad smell.
Let's see, keeping this. never noticed until I started doing YouTube that I sing a lot of my words, but I guess that's just one of my little coping skills. Back to tips. Your refrigerator should be at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. In my own refrigerator here that I have this drawer. Oh, there's my daughter Yvonne. This drawer is held together with tape. I mentioned in my last video that I had quite a few things break within a 6-month period, and that's one of them, but we're holding it together and so far we're still able to use it. And speaking of my last video, we're about halfway through this video, and I thought I'd take a little break, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for all of your love and support of my channel and of me. I love and appreciate all of the kind comments, and the comments section is just one of my favorite places to be, and I'd really like to just share some of the comments from my last video, and you'll see them scrolling across the screen now. There's my fridge, and now I know what's there and what we need. Onto the freezer, and let's do some freezer tips. We'll talk more about how to freeze different items in a moment and how to use them out of the freezer. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how long things should be put and left in the freezer. Raw meat can be frozen and left in the freezer for 1 year. But if it's ground raw meat, it should only be in there for 4 months. And if it's cooked meat, it should only be in there for 3 months. When you take your meat out of the freezer, if there's ice crystals inside the packaging, or if it's changed color, and of course, if it has a rancid odor, you should consider throwing it out. When you put it in the freezer, it would be a good idea to double wrap it so that you don't end up with those ice crystals. Fruit can safely be stored in the freezer for about a year, and for the best texture, you should add it to your recipes just before it's completely thawed out. Bananas can be stored in the freezer right in their peel. The peel's going to turn brown, but the fruit itself will be fine to use in baked recipes or smoothies. I read from the website thespruceeats.com that you should only keep bananas in the freezer for 2 to 3 months. Vegetables should be stored in the freezer for 12 months to 18 months. I've always been a little bit nervous about canning, but I have frozen vegetables, and what I normally do is I boil them for 1 to 2 minutes, and then I transfer the vegetables to an ice water bath to stop the cooking process. And then I put them in Gladlock freezer bags and store them that way in my freezer, trying to take out as much air from the freezer bag as I possibly can. You'll also need to pat the vegetables dry before you freeze them, or they're just going to end up being one big block. Bread can be frozen for 3 to 6 months, but I've personally found that bread does not do well in my deep freeze. So I use this freezer that I'm cleaning out right now, the one that's attached to my refrigerator. I never use my deep freeze for bread because I have found that it leaves my bread dry. Of course, you'll want it packed tight in plastic so that it doesn't have a lot of air, because the air is going to make it dry as well. Now my freezer's all organized, and I'm moving to the basement to my deep freeze. Previously, I wasn't keeping a whole lot in the deep freeze, but now that things are more scarce, I am keeping a better supply, and I'm determined to do better with this. Once things calm down, I'd like to do a bigger shop when I don't feel like I'm taking food away from someone else, and get this nice and full, and then be rotating our foods. Because I wasn't used to making big use of this area, I had let it get real messy. I was just having the kids bring food down whenever we went grocery shopping. So I'm getting it all organized. I'm on the far right there. I'm putting things like frozen pizza, frozen burritos, and then in the middle there, I'm doing all my frozen meats, and then the vegetables on the left side and in the basket, as well as the frozen fruits. I also have a steno pad there, and I'm writing down everything that I have in this freezer so that I can bring it upstairs and then just cross things off as we use them. I'm hoping that's going to help me keep track of what I have. I got that idea from the YouTube channel A Peek Inside, and I'll leave her channel linked in my description box below as well. Here's my inventory list all ready to come upstairs, and here's my freezer all nice and organized. Lastly, I need to organize my pantry upstairs in my kitchen. It doesn't need to be cleaned, it's just really disorganized because with everyone putting food away, they just tend to put it wherever it fits and not in any type of order. So I'm reorganizing it before I write my grocery list for the week. While I'm doing this last chore, I wanted to talk a little bit about food anxiety and provision. In case someone watches this later, this is April 2020, and food is very scarce right now. Certain staples can be very hard to get, and that's caused anxiety in many of us. I've personally struggled with some anxiety of recent times that I hadn't experienced before. Part of that is just the atmosphere of everyone in face masks at the store and having to wait your turn to go in. It's just a lot to get used to. Added to that, I'm buying for 8 of us at home, and I've had a bit of fear that stores would close down or would not be replenished. And I understand that that might not be a rational anxiety, but definitely it was something I was feeling. Some of the thoughts going through my head were, will we have enough of our staples? Can we replenish? Will we be able to afford food? How do I menu plan ahead if I don't know what the store is going to have? Was I wrong to be more minimalistic? Should I have stockpiled? Is it wrong to now buy extra and potentially take food from someone else? Can I handle the atmosphere in the stores? And on it went. And I have a daughter with food restrictions, and was I going to be able to find the food items that she needed? I doubt I'm alone in some of those thoughts, and the last thing that I want to perpetuate on my channel is that I have it all together, because I don't. I'm just like everybody else, and I have my own struggles and insecurities. I definitely think it's important for us to be wise in our purchases, to be doing our best to make sure our food is lasting as long as possible and that we're storing it properly. But then there's just those situations that come that we cannot control. That's when it's so important to know that we have a God in heaven who loves us and who cares about our needs. And I go to those passages in the Bible like Luke chapter 12, verse 24, where it says, "Consider the ravens. They do not sow or reap. They have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than birds." I read those passages and I turn them into thanksgiving and praise, saying, thank you, God. I know you're going to provide for my family, and we are more important to you than the birds that you feed every day. And I use that as a way to build my confidence and hope in God. So let's be wise with our food, but more importantly, let's recognize that it is God who provides. He loves you so much, and I love you too, and I'll see you next time.